I'm very, very honored to stand before you all this morning and to give this welcome address of the Africa Business Convention 2026. First protocol, Nigeria's Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, His Excellency Mr. Wale Edun, OFR, represented here this morning by Mr. Raymond Omenka Omachi, the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Finance. You're welcome, sir. Just before now, we had His Excellency Wamkele Mene, who is the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And then we have the Director General of Nigeria Security and Exchange Commission, Dr. Momatimi Hagama. I believe he's on his way. And we have other distinguished business leaders and, like has just been introduced, Professor Onana from the Development Bank of Africa. And I want to especially, I'm not sure if I've met him, but I want to especially welcome those that have joined us from outside of Nigeria, particularly Adam Sise and his wife. Sise is the CEO of Infinity Africa, one of our keynote speakers, and who will be speaking on financing Africa's growth later this morning. Other distinguished policymakers, business leaders, investors, entrepreneurs, partners, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Lagos. Welcome to the Africa Business Convention 2026. It is truly a privilege to stand before you as we gather once again on the first Tuesday of February, as we have made a tradition to continue a conversation that is not only necessary, but urgent. A conversation about Africa's business, Africa's growth, and ultimately, Africa's prosperity. Since our inception in 2021, the Africa Business Convention has been guided by a simple but powerful idea. When Africa's businesses do well, Africa's economies do well. And when Africa's economies do well, Africa's people thrive. Our journey has been intentional. In 2021, in Africa Proactive, we asked whether Africa could have been more proactive before the COVID-19 pandemic and what that meant for our future. In 2022, in Africa Recovery, we confronted the reality of recovery, only to find that recovery itself would be tested by global shocks, rising debt, disrupted trade, and tightening financial conditions. We then explored Africa Connected in 2023, recognizing that resilience would not come from isolation, but from deeper integration across trade, aviation, technology, education, and finance. And in 2025, last year, Africa Invest led the truth. Africa's gap is not only an investment gap in numbers, but a gap in people, policies, systems, and long-term capital. Today, in 2026, we arrive at the defining moment. Our theme, Africa Grow, is both a question and a call to action. In case you haven't noticed, so let me just quickly say that, because I really intend to use this speech to give some understanding of where Africa Business Convention came from, where we are, and where we are going to. Our themes are always two-word themes. So Africa Proactive, Africa Recovery, Africa Connected, Africa Invest, Africa Grow, and in 2027, we will have Africa Trade. Yes, Africa is growing. According to the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, the continent's GDP is projected to grow by about 4% compared to 3.3% globally. But let us be honest with ourselves. This growth is uneven. It is fragmented across regions, across countries, and across sectors. While some economies are accelerating, others are lagging. This disparity is not just a concern, it is also an opportunity. The real question before us is this: how do we accelerate growth, narrow the disparities, and make that growth sustained, inclusive, and business-led? This is where the Africa Business Convention is different. We are not just another conference. We are a decentric B2B platform, purpose-built to bring government, CEOs, investors, innovators, entrepreneurs into one room, not for speeches alone, but for transactions, partnerships, and long-term value creation. To focus our work, we have deliberately anchored our conversation around 6 pillars we believe are critical to Africa's growth and prosperity. The first one is agriculture and food security. We understand that for Africa, for us to grow, for us to prosper, we must not only grow the food that we eat, but we must also be able to grow it in a profitable and sustainable way. So Africa and food security. The second pillar that we look at in relation to business growth and prosperity in Africa is banking, investment, and capital. The third one is environmental, social, and governance. And let me just quickly define this. Our environmental, social, and governance is broader than the usual ESG. Our social and governance includes education, includes health, and includes leadership. Fintech, innovation, and technology, jobs, economy, and trade, and finally, power, infrastructure, and energies. These pillars are not abstract ideas. They are the engines of growth. They are where trade is unlocked and where capital is mobilized, where jobs are created, and where productivity is built. And at the center of all 6 pillars are businesses, large, medium, and small, operating across the continent. Looking ahead, the ambition of the Africa Business Convention is very, very clear. The future of the Africa Business Convention is a membership-based organization with a bold goal to build an ecosystem of 200,000 Africa and Africa-focused businesses over the next 5 years. An ecosystem that enables capital raising, policy dialogue, market access, knowledge sharing, and trusted relationships across borders. One that builds and leverages on the Africa Continental Free Trade area after. We will also expand our engagement with additional future meetings focused specifically on SMEs and leadership, because we know the Africa growth story cannot be complete without its small businesses and its next generation of leaders. Let me be very clear about our purpose. Our goal is not invents for invent's sake. Our goal is the prosperity of Africa. And we know without ambiguity that Africa's prosperity lies in the prosperity of its businesses. So today, I invite you not just to attend, but to build with us. Build partnerships, build trade relationships, build investment pipelines, build systems and institutions that will outlast cycles and shocks. Over the next 2 days, we will ask questions about reforms, about trade, about capital, and about growth. We will explore where the real opportunities are in agriculture, energy, infrastructure, technology, and cross-border trade. And most importantly, we'll move from conversation to action. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa's growth will not be accidental. It will be intentional. It will be built deal by deal, reform by reform, businesses by business. Thank you for being here. Welcome to AB's Challenges.